Great to be speaking with Aaron Bludworth today, the President CEO of Fern. We're going to speak, of course, about trade show. We're going to speak about the impact of trade show on the economy. We're going to speak as well about the face-to-face event and why he believes that is never going to be replaced by online. And we'll speak as well about how we can help people in general, and what we should be worrying about and what we should not be worrying about if there's nothing we can change about the situation. Enjoy. Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Business of Meeting podcast. I'm Eric Rosenberg, and today I am extremely pleased to welcome one of the leaders in our industry. Aaron Bludworth is the CEO of Fern, a company that is serving about 1,500 exhibition annually and other events. He's been in our industry since 1992. We're going to get into it in a second. Aaron has been serving in our industry, past president of ESCA, past chair of SEER, past board member of IAEE, and I think it's something that really reflects on him and tells a lot about who he is as a human being. He's been the recipient of the first inaugural IAEE humanitarian award and is involved in different organizations helping people and also trying to relieve poverty in different cities. Aaron, thank you so much for taking the time today.
Hi, Eric. Happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. My first question is, how did you join our industry? Because a lot of us, it's like we fell into it. Today, there's obviously a different curriculum you can follow, but how did you get into our industry?
Yeah, so just like everybody else, I got tricked into it. I accidentally ended up on show floor one day in 1992, and that was going to be a temporary thing, and I've never left. So I had an uncle involved in the business. He convinced me to come and do some work on a temporary basis when I was in college, and I got the bite, and I was in, and here I am almost 3 decades later, and I'm still wandering around in the trade show industry.
That's fabulous. And obviously, you're going from one project to the other. You're managing a major team. And throughout your journey, as you were saying, you've been in companies that have been held privately, that have been held publicly owned, and also private equity owned. What type of difference do you see on the human side of it? And what do you enjoy the most?
Yeah, so I see positives to all of those models. I certainly like privately held the most, which is what I have now, given the amount of flexibility we have and the ability to kind of determine and drive our destiny over the long term versus a lot of short-term decisions that are required when you're in a publicly traded or another type of investor-owned company. So that's certainly my favorite, but I see positives to all of the models. Some allow faster growth, some force you to focus on certain outcomes more aggressively. Those can be positive things, but if you look at the big picture over my experience, certainly prefer privately held where we can determine our destiny with a little more consistency and control.
Yeah, that's what I always heard people, I think it was Eisenhower who said that you're not managing people by hitting them on the head. That's called assault. That's not leadership.
Yeah, right.
And sometimes in my own experience, when you have, you're not necessarily making the calls yourself. There's a lot of politics. There's a lot of other elements that get in the game and basically wasting your time and energy, right?
Yeah, and if you have, the more masters you have, the less you're focused on, the primary one, which in my view is the customer and the people that keep the customers. And if you have a bunch of outside influences on that, primarily, and we all have financial masters too, but
sure.
The more of those you have, the less focus you have on the most critical.
Yeah, absolutely. And on that note, especially for even business owners, it's fascinating when you have a small business, how much you can lose track of the fact that you should pay yourself first and obviously serve your customer. But if there's no business, there's nothing you can do afterwards.
Yeah. Good point. So
I know you're not, you're just like me. You're just telling like it is and not afraid to tell people that besides I think the 2020 sentence that is you're on mute or unmute yourself, there's another one now that more serious and more important is wear the damn mask. And quite frankly, I just don't understand where is the even the question of that. just to protect others. And definitely, we see all the people in the trade show, but not only in the show business, in theater, in live events, that are now unemployed. And quite frankly, if everybody would wear the mask, we would not be here today. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, it's a very frustrating point for me. In fact, as I go around my community, I live in the Cincinnati area, and when I go around and I stop to get gas and go in the convenience store. And example, the other day there were 7 people in the store. 3 of us had masks on, and I'm just like, we're never going to get anywhere at this pace. I look at some of our national leadership that kind of makes it a badge of honor to not do simple mitigation, and just very, very frustrating. So I've kind of added wear a damn mask to I might get it added to my driver's license. I've been saying it so much. It's become part of me lately. The last couple of weeks I've added vote, and I'll have vote on there for the last next couple of weeks as well. But it's kind of Aaron Bludworth, wear a damn mask of vote, is what it is right now. But I wrote an op-ed for the Cincinnati Enquirer a couple of weeks ago, and my main point there was, hey, there's reasonable arguments to be had that shutting down the economy was too much and causes more harm than good. But there is no reasonable argument to not do basic mitigation. What would really be foolish is if we shut down the economy and we're still too selfish, lazy, undisciplined, et cetera, to not do the basic mitigation things like wear a mask, distance, wash our hands. If we can't do those basic things, then we've had the dual impact of shutting down the economy and being so stupid and selfish that we can't, be kind and courteous to our fellow citizens. So it's selfish because it's better for all of us if we can do those mitigation things to get back to business. But it's also the very basic of love your neighbors. So even if you don't believe if you think the whole thing's a hoax, which I can't comprehend that at all, but if you think everything about COVID is a hoax, still you have neighbors, you have people that you should show enough love and common decency and respect to put on a mask. It's not going to hurt you. It's not harmful. Just do it.
Absolutely. I remember a few months ago seeing on TV, and I live in South Florida, and it was in the middle of a spring break. And you had kids coming from all over the country that were interviewed. I don't care. I'll get it. I'm not in the target group. And I'm thinking, yes, you might not get it. And you're going to give it to your parents. You're going to give it to your grandparents. You're going to give it to your neighbor. How stupid can you be not just to wear it?
And your state is as reliant on tourism and trade shows and conventions and events as any state in the country.
Yeah.
And your governor last night was at a political rally with no mask on, going around high-fiving people in a place where there have been people with known COVID in the last couple of weeks, showing total disregard for mitigation. That's what we need, the exact opposite from our leaders at the state, local, and national level.
Yeah, and I certainly will enjoy speaking about politics with you and anybody. But what I'm witnessing, this behavior of the young kids I was telling about, but also of a lot of adults, is not only in our country. I'm originally from Belgium. It's a disaster over there, and all over the world you see people that, of course, are wearing it, and others that just think, it's not going to happen to them until it's too late. And we all know people that have suffered from it or died from it. But most importantly, even for the youngest, is the side effect and what you carry afterwards.
Yeah, and I can tell you, so even if it didn't have, critical impact economically on our business and our teams and our employees and our customers. I mean, my dad passed away in February. He may have had COVID. We don't know. It was so early in the process that they weren't testing it, but he had just spent a couple of weeks in the Pacific Northwest. Otherwise very healthy, came home, was sick for a few days and died, very similar to an aggressive case of COVID. My brother and his wife and their 4 kids all had COVID. The kids, it was minor, but my brother and his wife have ongoing, fairly minor, but ongoing issues still months later. I know many other people who have had various impacts from coronavirus. And it really comes down to, again, it doesn't matter if it's affecting our paychecks, our long-term livelihood. That's critical, and that's going to be very important for individuals and for the country. But this is real lives that are being impacted every day. And we're just being so careless and undisciplined as a society that it frustrates me and really concerns me about our future, to be honest.
Yeah, I can only agree with you. I have a friend who's finished on that, but doesn't smoke, good health, early 40s. He was telling me recently that he had COVID in March or April, and he had just been doing all the tests, and he had the lungs of a 25 years smoking, somebody who has been smoking for 25 years, which is insane. Now, to come back to our industry, but not even to come back, to link it, because it's really part of it. If we look at some other country like Singapore or like Taiwan, they didn't really shut down their economy, but they keep walking and working with masks. So to your point, why can we not do that here? But one thing, and last thing on that I don't really understand, how about putting people on planes, which is fine with mask, and it's absolutely compulsory. But then why don't we reopen theater? Why don't we reopen venues and live events and asking people and forcing people to wear masks? Because it seems that if you look at Singapore, Taiwan, that's the way of doing it.
I think we've seen that we've got so much lack of discipline in areas that you get government leaders that are understandably gun shy on letting basic things happen, because we've shown that as a people we're not responsible enough to do basic things. And on an airplane, it's easy. Someone's paid a big ticket to get kicked off. They've had a big loss. They've had to put a big upfront investment in. You pay $7 to go to a movie, you're still very likely to be a jackass.
Wow. Yep. I didn't thought of that, but yep, that's a very, very good point. So we all in this industry, we're waiting and then trying, and trade show is so crucial. And meetings and events are so crucial for our economy. I don't think that people in our industry realize that. But even outside, it's just like, yeah, it's nice. It's trade show, it's events. But it's really fundamentally at the base of everything that we're doing as a society, when it comes to communication, when it comes to business, when it comes to interaction, when it comes to discovery and everything. So I know that you are very adamant saying that trade shows are vital to commerce. What would you say to people in our industry as key talking points to use? And what would you say to people outside of our industry about how trade shows are so important to commerce?
They're pretty much the same, those points. Really, there's no more effective place for commerce to happen than at a trade show, where you can bring hundreds or thousands of buyers to hundreds or thousands of sellers at one time and provide an opportunity for people to have massive selection, massive selling opportunities, comparative examples, for buying and sourcing, and build relationships and get educated and be entertained. There's no other effective way to do that nearly as efficiently as at a trade show or an event, whether that's a trade show or a proprietary event where one brand is selling to a large audience. And what people don't think about, though, and this I guess would go for our industry folks sometimes that don't see as big of a picture as it really is, and certainly to the general public, is now that we're 6 or 7 months into not having shows, we've got a big problem coming up in the economy down the road as a result of those shows not happening. That's unrelated to the ecosystem, the financial ecosystem of the shows itself, is that the people that have been displaced from doing their usual sales at shows now don't have those sales. And so there's a ripple. So the people that, companies, small companies, medium-sized companies all over the United States rely on shows as being one of their main order writing opportunities, where they go on, in some cases, have 70, 80% of their sales for the entire year happen as a result of what takes place at one or two shows. If they miss those, they don't have the bandwidth or the horsepower to get out there and sell at the same level. They certainly can't show their products the same way. And the more people that say, well, we're just going to not place those orders this year, we can't buy like we were buying this, typically, that's got a huge ripple. So we don't recognize the amount of real deep into the U.S. economy, and this is global as well, that orders that take place at trade shows have on manufacturing and jobs in communities all across the country, all across the world. And so you look at it and think, hey, this doesn't really affect me. But if you're working in a little widget factory in the middle of Kansas, most likely that widget goes into a product that the company is selling at a trade show.
Yep.
And if those are not getting sold, then sure enough, down the line, there's an impact on the health and fiscal health of that company. And then, of course, there's the education piece that can more effectively be replaced with some types of virtual technologies, unlike the actual commerce piece, which I don't believe is transferable to virtual in any way.
Mm-hmm.
But education can sometimes be accomplished, but if it's not done as well, we've got an issue all throughout our system as well. I want my doctor to go and have hands-on experience with other doctors and with the trainers and with the products. I don't want him just seeing that on a screen. I want to know that there was actual real focused engagement and couldn't turn off his screen and do some other stuff and multitask. I want to know that the focus was there and learning what needed to be learned. That's not just doctors, it's educators, it's every bit of our society where the most commerce, the most education, the most relationships take place are when we're getting people together live.
Yeah, and on that note, and bringing people safely back to the face-to-face, what is the future? How can we making sure that people are safe? I know your company, as others, have launched a new initiative related to that. How do you see the future of trade show when it comes to safety in that sense for the next pandemic?
Yeah, so I believe people can meet safely right now. We have some issues with sizes of groups that are allowed to meet in a lot of different states and cities. And every one of those milestones where we see somebody loosen up those restrictions is positive, but people can meet safely now. We just have to follow the same basic mitigation protocols, wearing masks, distancing, cleaning our hands, cleaning surfaces, and people being responsible enough to go through a checklist and say, yeah, I'm not sick. I don't have these symptoms. I'm able to meet. And we see little pockets of meetings happening today. I firmly believe that at some point, it could be still many months, even, a year plus out, but we will see the industry regain its similar footing as it's had in the past. I think most of these practices within 2 or 3 years will go away.
Mm-hmm.
But probably for a couple of years, we're going to have some level of this mitigation that has to take place for shows all around the world. And we need to get used to that. Right now, our bigger issue is people aren't comfortable traveling, whether that's for their own safety or financial reasons, or their company has restrictions in place. Yep. But as soon as we can get people traveling and comfortable traveling, meetings can take place safely right now. We're seeing it happening. Fern introduced a product a couple months ago called Fern Health Check. We partnered with a company called Share My Health. That's a app-based technology that has a physical testing component, a self-assessment verification, and in some cases ties directly into a show registration, but it can go as far as 72 hours in advance. We send a test kit to the person's home or wherever they've designated. They provide the testing information that goes to the lab. The lab then provides back through the app the test results, which are also provided to the show organizer. The attendee has allowed that to be done in a HIPAA compliant way. They've gone in and said, I'm willing to have this test done and I'm willing to share these results with this organization. And so effectively they come to the show, they know they've been cleared within 72 hours in advance. And then as long as they're doing the assessments and they're getting their temperature checked, then there should be very little concern about those people moving about, wearing a mask and being smart on show site. That's available today. There are others. Clear has started a partnership with MGM Properties offering something similar. There are other tools, and we expect the testing will get faster and faster. And my hope is that we'll be able to see rapid testing at show site where somebody can go to a show for 4 days. They get tested every day when they get there. They have the results in 5 or 10 minutes, and we're good to go.
Yeah, I read this week that there's a new company that is coming with almost immediate results, less than 15 minutes.
Yeah,
which obviously will change the game as well as the vaccine.
Yeah, and I think the vaccine's probably further out than that testing, and it's going to take a long time for the vaccine to get coverage that we need.
Yeah.
So if we can have a combination of knowing, hey, there's a vaccine down the road, and we've got this ability to have good, reliable, very, very fast testing that's inexpensive, we'll be in a good spot.
Mm-hmm. To your point about face-to-face and online, I'm always reminded of when the first time we had football that was broadcast on TV. People say, "Oh, nobody's going to come to the stadium anymore," and of course it's the opposite. People want to be there when they see what's happening. Now, in terms of education, yes, some of the things can be done, and as you rightly said, that you want to see how people react. Do you believe that it's going to change completely? It's going to change nothing, or we're going to have a mix of more online and face-to-face in the future if we compare to what was happening until 2019?
So I think we will be using virtual the way we should have been using it for the last decade when we're done with this. So I don't believe that it'll change in a way that was outside of the trajectory that it should have happened. But the pandemic will get us there because for a couple of reasons. One is attendees are comfortable, presenters are comfortable, organizers are comfortable with the technology, and there'll be more platforms available. Mm-hmm. But for the last decade, and some organizers have been, should have been using, and smart organizers have been using virtual as a community building tool that gives potential attendees a taste of what they could get in the live experience. And then when they use it, they say, I'm missing something. I need to be there. I need to be there with the people. I'm only getting this taste of it, and I need to be there in person. That should have been happening, and that can be happening in the future, and it will be now that the barriers to entry are gone. But nobody that I know of that's been participating in virtual events gets on here and says, wow, I hope this is the future. Everybody's this is terrible. I hate this. I don't even want to do another Zoom call. I've been on some events that are professional events with CEOs of very large companies, and there's always that one guy that looks like he's on To Catch a Predator. I'm like, we got just this silhouette of this guy. Nobody wants that anymore. It's not an effective and efficient way to deliver content. We're not building relationships. I gave an example. There's an event that I participated in fully virtual that I would have typically gone to in person recently, and I gave the organizers some feedback, and they know the industry I'm in, and I told them in advance, I'm going to give you some feedback after. Mm-hmm. But I could show them that in 16, 17, 18, and 19, I said, here's a list of the people I met that I still have relationships with. Here's a list of the products I bought at each of these. And then from the 20 meeting, I said, here's a list of the people I met, nobody. Here's a list of the products I bought, nothing. Here's a list of the products on my list after that, nothing. Yeah. And I left partway through and went miniature golfing with my family, and you guys didn't even have any idea. And so you lost the captive audience. I didn't build any relationships. I didn't buy any products. Mm-hmm. And I was actually participating and had a part in the program. I was in the program, and it was very ineffective. And they were a great brand, great presenters, great product, a good enough platform. It's just not the same. And and so I think it's critical that we find very good, effective ways which exist to use the technology like we should have been using it and like we could use it in the future to bring people to the live events and give them a reason to join and stay part of their communities. But mm-hmm. I have no worries at all about virtual being the way of the future. I mean, go back in my career, the internet was going to ruin us. Virtual shows were going to ruin us. Social media was going to ruin us. None of that changes the human nature and the human desire for people to be together and the way they can experience something face to face. Nobody's going out and hanging at the virtual bar after the meeting and building a relationship and closing the deal. It's just not happening.
I cannot say, and I cannot add anything to that. Fully agree with you. One additional question on that. On one hand, I see companies that said to people, okay, we cancel all the travel, we cancel all those attendance now. And obviously on the short term, they have less cost. But to your point earlier on, they're going to have less revenue as well in the future. And parallel to that, you're hearing the Microsoft of this world saying to people, now you're going to be able to work from home permanently. Do you agree that if that is the way of the future, that will even reinforce the need for people to meet if they work more from home?
It'll certainly make it more desirable, I think, by the people that are doing it. I mean, I'll give you an example. I've traveled just a few times during the pandemic. They've all been for personal. I haven't traveled for business since I came home from ConExpo Con Ag in the middle of March. But I was a couple weeks ago, I went and I had a multi-city stop and flew on several flights. And I'm like, this feels really good to be out and about amongst people and connecting with people. As much as I've loved being home and having extra time with, my wife and my kids and some sense of normal life, which I don't like. I've sat at my desk more than I have I've been in the same office for 12 years. I've sat here the last 7 months more than I have the entire 12 years. And I can tell you, I'm not made for 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, sitting at the desk. But being out and about, and I think the more we see people in situations where they're not daily interfacing in the way that they're used to, in the way that's most productive for them, that appetite, they're going to be starved for that human interaction. And so I agree with you. I think that it's way more likely that that's going to cause there to need to be more in-person connection. Again, for all of those reasons, commerce, education, relationship, than there ever has been before.
Yep. Awesome. One of your ideas as well is, and I know in some cases, especially when you're middle of fighting for challenges that you have to overcome, it sounds a little difficult, but is to say, if there's a solution, find it and find it quickly. And if there's no solution, then never mind it and don't sweat it. How much do you pursue? How much do you persevere? How much do you try and search? And what is the moment when you say, you know what, there is no solution, never mind it? And the reason I'm asking this question is for all the business owners that are listening now, how much do they have to persevere before saying, you know what, I'm going to do something else for the moment?
I think you should spend very little time worrying and stressing about things out of your control. So that quote is one that is actually taken from somebody. I didn't make it up, but a friend, somebody I respect a lot, shared it with me 25-ish years ago. And I've probably shared that quote with people 20,000 times since then. And it's kind of ingrained as part of my philosophy. And I think I'm fairly good at, maybe too good at, dismissing those things that I believe are out of my control. And that's proven to be very effective during the last 7 months, is taking and saying, hey, for every problem under the sun, there's a solution or there's none. If there's a solution, or you find it. If there's none, never mind it. I'm very focused on, hey, we can't fix what's out of our control that we absolutely can't change, but there are a lot of things we can do, and we should be doing those things and being aggressive with them, and we should be going 1,000 miles an hour and trying to accomplish the things that we can. So it's not about doing less. It's about spending time on the things that we can actually impact the outcome of, and not getting hung up by, I think, a lot of the stress and emotional challenges and frustration comes when we're spinning our wheels on things that it doesn't matter what we do, we're not going to solve. I'm not a scientist. I know I'm not going to create the vaccine for this disease. I'm not going to help us get past that. But I can encourage a lot of people to put their masks on. We can go and get our partnership with Share My Health done. We can create some new incentives for exhibitors to come back to shows. All of the things that we can do as a company, we're doing, and we're doing them fast, and we're going to be aggressive with them. But we're not spending any time trying to come up with a vaccine. That's not something that we can do. That's a big example. But every single day, there's a bunch of those types of decisions that we have to make. And your question about a business owner, if a business owner is up against, what's the future of my business in this pandemic, and that you can't take a service provider like us. You can't take and create enough, I hate the word pivot and I hate the words new normal, but you can't pivot and do something in your little workshop that's going to create enough business to replace what you typically do. Yeah. There are things you can do, though, that will help you be positioned well on the other side. And as long as you can keep enough runway in front of you and survive to get there, then you can be a much better business because you've been creative and pushing forward on the things that are in your control during this time.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying to people I'm coaching is you cannot act on the pandemic, increase your business skills, prepare for after, revise your business model, look at how you want to be serving your customer in the future. And the second thing is what you were saying about virtual and pivoting to that. I'm always reminded of one of my wife's uncle. When I got married, I said, this is my industry. This is my business. These are my vendors. Nobody's taking care of my wedding but myself. although I had a corporate event company, but I just want to make sure that things are well. And he looked at me, he said, Eric, I'm a baker. I didn't bake the cake when I got married. And I said, oh, that's a very good point. And I think the parallel here is, do we need, as business owners in this industry, to understand virtual and how to set up virtual? Absolutely. Do we need to do it ourselves? Of course not. It's a different profession, by the way. And the partnership that I had when I had my own corporate event company with people like you and with people with avian production companies, I will always work with the same people as a partnership because that's their business. I understand what they're doing, but I'm not going to do it myself. And that's also a tendency. People think that they should be doing everything themselves, which they don't.
Yeah, no, absolutely right. And that's even in normal times. It's easy to say, hey, I should be the turnkey solution provider to every aspect of a customer's needs. That's how you dilute yourself down to the point where you're doing nothing exceptionally well. And you've got your hands in a whole bunch of pots. I mean, there are times when companies grow in ways they can do that well, but most of the time you see a pretty bad outcome when someone tries to be everything.
Mm-hmm. And I know you're very busy, and we can talk for hours. But it's one aspect of you that I would like to touch to end this conversation is the human aspect. I know you a little bit. I know obviously your company, but what I know about you from what people say, from what you do, not what you say, but what you do, is you like to help people and you like to lift people up. So as entrepreneurs, I think we also have a responsibility to lift ourselves up and our families, but also the people that work with us. What would be your advice for all the business owners in our industry today, what they can be doing to lift themselves up and to lift others up as well? Because all the issues of society are not going away because we're all talking about the pandemic.
Yeah, my guess is that everybody who's going to be listening to this has it better than 99% of the rest of the world. And we have a responsibility, in my view, to the rest of those people. And it's pretty basic, in my view. People are good. People have varying degrees of circumstances and challenges. Some of those people work for us. Some of those people are sitting on the sidewalk when we go down the street. Some of those people are addicted to drugs. Some of those people, for whatever reason, their circumstances aren't the same as ours, and I think we have an obligation to help them. And that comes in a whole bunch of different ways. For some people, it's making donations and contributions to organizations that are supporting those causes. Other cases, it's as simple as holding the door open, saying thank you, smiling, being outside your comfort zone on very basic things. In other cases, it's direct one-on-one helping people. And that can be, again, it can be people that are in our industry working with us that just need a good boost and need somebody to be kinder to them than typical circumstances would afford them. For me, I spend a fair amount of time, not as much as I'd like to lately with the pandemic, but being involved in various homeless and poverty-related causes, trying to help organizations and individuals, organizations that are helping individuals and individuals get back on their feet. Sometimes that's, I think a lot of the time, and this doesn't change people's lives, but a lot of times it's taking 10, 15 minutes and having a conversation with somebody that's in those circumstances, letting them feel human for a few minutes and not like they're inferior to the rest of the people that are walking around in better condition than them. Other times it's writing a check. Other times it's, getting involved in providing direct service at one of those organizations, going in and spending a few hours with the organization. And in my case, in a few cases, I'm on the board of some of these organizations, helping them develop their strategy and work on how they can raise funds and provide services to people. But it doesn't matter what the cause is. I think we all have an obligation to, humanize people more, recognize they're generally good, and find ways to lift them. And again, that can be a wide variety of ways we do it. But I think if we're not putting some intentional focus on that, we can get, kind of selfish pretty quick and not provide the good that we should be doing with what we have.
It's awesome. I'm speechless. I think that you've summarized everything of what they, and I want to say normal, but it's a great human being should be. And it's just starting with ourselves and trying to help others as well. So Thank you very much for that, Aaron. My last question, when we meet in 1 year, what are we celebrating?
I'd like to be a little more optimistic. But I think we're celebrating a country that's began to take the pandemic a lot more serious than we did for the first year of it. And again, I think that means we're a long ways past where we are today and in much better shape than we are today. But this is a multi-year event, and I think we've unfortunately needed a few lumps more than we should have needed to get serious about it. And I think a year from now we will have started to successfully emerge from the pandemic's impact. And again, we're kind of at the. I'll be really happy if we're on the other side of the 50-yard line at that point. But we won't be scoring any points yet, but we'll be making good progress by that point. I think we'll be really excited about that compared to what this first year will have looked like.
Awesome. Hang in there. We'll get there. We'll come back. And in the meantime, as my good friends would say, carpe diem, noctem que.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Eric.
Thank you, Aaron.
Yeah.
Thank you, Aaron, for spending time with me and not only answering my question, but giving great insight. Love your philosophy. I love your approach to life. And more importantly, I love that you're doing and not only talking when it comes to lifting people up and helping others. Please join me on the private Facebook group, www.evenbusinessformula.com/group, where we discuss what any and every business owners should know about our industry and about their business. And you can always link up with me on LinkedIn. Thank you.